I want to thank you for coming. As Mayur mentioned, the new Bramasol is a company on the move making a lot of things happen, and we're glad to share with you some key areas of innovation and leadership that we are focused on and help show you how that's possible, especially with some of our special panel speakers. I also want to thank SAP for being a co-sponsor. Thanks for some of you showing up here today. There may be a couple other surprise visitors throughout the session, so thank you very much to them. So our day today, we will cover three big topics, exciting topics that touch many of your businesses. Revenue recognition is the bane of all CFOs and the SEC and Sarbanes-Oxley and a bunch of different groups. But we've got a lot of expertise and experience in dealing with that, and we want to provide you today a compelling story around that with our special speaker, Sean, leading the way. We're going to talk to you about mobility. You heard an introduction there from Bill. He's one of the big thought leaders of SAP in this area, and you're going to find out how mobility is permeating all parts of information technology for companies and help empowering your workforce. Then we have a special panel session on analytics. So we have real customers who are really using analytics, as well as a mix of SAP expertise that have some questions that we've set up for them to answer, but also we'll take questions from the crowd. So I think that'll be exciting. So that's three big, exciting sessions today. And then afterwards, I welcome all of you to join us just a little less than 2 miles away at the Crown Plaza, and we have shuttles or cars we can carpool you over as well if you'd like. We'll have some heavy hors d'oeuvres and drinks and things like that, so you can continue to meet with us and learn a little bit more and share with us your questions and all. Okay? So again, I'm the CEO of Bramasol. I have been in the information technology application space for well over 20 years, focused mostly on the consulting side. So unlike many of the people here, I do not come out of sales. And I've been running I've actually just passed my 18-month anniversary of running Bramasol, and it's been an exciting time. And the merger that Mayur mentioned just 3 months ago has helped transform our business in exciting ways. I'm going to India for my second time in 6 months in about 3 weeks, so it's definitely impacted me and my wife. But so thank you again. A little bit about Bramasol. We actually are the first reseller for SAP in North America. Been around since 1996. We're based mostly here in Northern California area, and we do serve the country. I have employees and projects from Boston, New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, where Clint comes from. So we are across the country, and then very heavily throughout the West and California. Our acquisition doubled the size of the company and expanded us globally. In fact, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to SAP's TechEd India to announce that we are a reseller in India as well. So we are definitely a company expanding and on the move. Welcome. Just a final comment there before you flipped. This is a team with this combination that brings a lot of expertise, and we feel that we are peers of SAP. Many of us have been in SAP as leaders of organizations there that help make Bramasol happen today, and you'll hear some information about that throughout the day. Okay. So what does Bramasol focus on primarily? And we have many desires and many different things to get into, but our main focus is around high technology. That includes software and high technology manufacturing. Revenue recognition used to just be a software revenue recognition issue. Now there are so many different industries that have to deal with that, and we'll show you today how that has crossed so many different permeations. And we are very focused on that. We also focus on manufacturing, not just in the high tech, but also industrial machinery, consumer products, any repetitive, discrete kind of manufacturing are areas of specialization for us. Consume to cash in the telecommunications and wireless industry, another big focus area. We didn't have a special speaker from AT&T, but we've done that before. So we've worked in some of the biggest companies in America in that space, one of our real special focus areas. Business analytics and technology, and I'm glad there's several people here wanting to talk about commoditizing or monetizing it. We don't want to commoditize it yet. That's another 10 years from now. Definitely, that's an area we're very focused on as well. So we'll be able to talk about that. Cloud computing is all the rage for many people, and some of you are here today to hear about that. Bramasol is one of SAP's leaders with Business by Design, which is their core ERP for the cloud. So it's an area, I don't have too many of my team members here from that space, but we have developed a lot of expertise. They're all out implementing at other customers.
That's right.
Jen mentioned business planning and consolidation, and we'll hear more about that today. mobile solutions shouldn't be that far down the list. It's really taking over the IT and the CIO office as well as the CEO office focus on how to empower their workforce. And some great things have happened in the SAP world that you'll hear about around the Sybase acquisition, around how business objects analytics tools help empower organizations to really have access and use information. So and it's another one of our big focus areas. And then finally, the data management, which if you haven't heard of Hana, the owner and board member of Bramasol, who's also one of the founders, Hasso Plattner, that's his special pet project, so it's also my special pet project. Okay.
So my name is Sean. I do work at Mountain Medical. Previously, I was with Larry Miller Group, and I was only there for about a year. There are about 10,000 employees and $4.5 billion in revenue. They own the Utah Jazz and a couple hundred companies. And before that was my job that kind of we'll talk about mostly today. I started at Omniture, and I was about employee 200 and something. And they were the second largest SaaS company in the world, pure SaaS, when we were finished. And we went from 200 employees to 2,000 employees in about 4 years total, and before the acquisition by Adobe. And there, I owned all the internal applications, period, financial or not. And so anything that wasn't customer facing. And I actually met with the CFO and said, I will need to, before you go public, let you know that if we don't get a real system, you're going to have a big problem. And we did what I call MBE, Management by Excel. And yeah, not very good. And so he gave me the task to go out and pick what solution would we do. And I traveled around with me and one other gentleman for 1 year. We had 400 of the Fortune 500 customers as our own customers that we could just go visit. And it worked out very nice. And we did a lot of analytics. And our number one driver, when he said, can you please tell me very quickly in less than 1 minute, why do you need an ERP package? I said, yeah, I can tell you in one word, restatement. And he said, good enough. Go find what you needed to have. Our requirements were, I just kind of stand out here a little better, it'd be easier. Our requirements, as we began to choose an ERP package, and we knew that Oracle, we only would consider major ERP players at the time. I eliminated virtually everyone except 4. And those 4 were Oracle, NetSuite, SAP, and the Microsoft product. They change names too often to even name what they are. And it eventually became Oracle or SAP. And we began this evaluation. But we said that, either product could easily do basic financials. We just take that for granted. We know both products. And we built everything around revenue recognition. And for those that are in IT, to understand revenue recognition in a pure SaaS world, which what we were in, I had a department that was 28 CPA, MBA, or both, and they did nothing but RevRec. That is all they did, and that's how many it took. And they worked a tremendous amount of hours. And it was just a giant, gaping need that we just could not fill fast enough. Is it just RevRec? And you say, why is that so difficult? Well, in a SaaS world, and this is more for the IT guys, and I'm going to later give some accounting information to or give some IT information to the accounting guys. But for the IT guys in a SaaS world, if you take a pure SaaS model, which everything is going, and you combine that with a service, a best practice, an implementation, professional services, whatever that might be, you've immediately changed the value. And what is its real value of this product? And how do we recognize this subscription-based income that's going to continuously come in? You got a big problem. And then, if you do that in a foreign currency, it gets a little bit more complicated. And if you take that foreign currency and you have the customer say, we would like to increase our driver, whatever that might be for your SaaS-based model or not. We want to increase our minutes. We want to increase our clicks or our expense reports, whatever your driver might be in your SaaS world. Now you have a very big problem. And you will have to have a CPA, MBA, or both to do that. And so we had to figure out which of the two products could do this, could really do true revenue recognition. It was the big monster. And we said, if you really get this one right, we'll give you 9 out of 10 points. And all the other modules relied on RevRec. We just assume you can do financials. I would assume, we didn't have to worry about shop floor. I know you got a few guys here in manufacturing. I didn't have to worry about shop floor manufacturing. We didn't have box software at the time. We were just purely a SaaS model with professional services. So anyone that has those type of issues will have RevRec. And I hope I can get this. These are just some of the questions that can be asked around RevRec. Not a big deal. It's just kind of what we just talked about. Some of this is a little different. Omniture at the time, we did web analytics. And the web analytics that we did was not a product that I managed, but a really, really good friend of mine. He owned all of that. He was employee number 3. And he wrote the software that would allow the analytical product to automatically span on the fly. And it did that across 22,000 servers. We monitored 40% of the entire internet. That is a big, big project that most people don't realize. But again, we had 400 of the Fortune 500 at one time as our customers. So we had a lot of needs to be able to do this RevRec across those. Eventually, by the end of the story, Adobe bought Omniture and my college dropout friend for $1.8 billion. He did not do too bad. Some of the issues that we had, we were on acquisition mode. We bought Visual Sciences out of San Diego for $400 million. We bought Instadia. We bought a lot of companies. And we knew that whatever package we would use would need to be able to seamlessly support some of these integrations. So that might affect any of you, and not just accounting or IT, that the package you pick, how seamless can you integrate? And then at the same time, we also had to say that a small role would be played in if we were ever going to be acquired. Does it help having what software you choose be easily acquired more? Can you become a more desirable target because you pick the right software? And it turns out that was a true answer for us, because Adobe, when they bought us, they were already running SAP. And I know that at the negotiation table, when they figured out how fast they could bring us in, that was part of the deal. They said they got SAP. It'll go right in. We run SAP. So we got some, behind closed door kudos. Wow, we picked the right product. And I think for everyone here today, one of the big differences that I constantly preach to my team as a CIO now is it used to be that the big ate the small. It's just not true anymore. It is now the fast eat the slow. You have got to be fast, you have got to adapt, you have got to change quickly, and you've got to be able to acquire or be acquired very quickly, or you'll lose. So these were the things that we had to be able to do. And we were growing like crazy. We were the #1 company on NASDAQ for 2 years in a row as a percentage of growth. And we did okay. So next part I'm going to come to is the selection process. I'm going to talk a little bit about carve-outs. That makes RevRec even worse. Carve-outs are, if you're in commissions, as an example, along with your revenue, how do you do a carve-out? And if you're on the finance side, you'll already know what I'm talking about. It becomes very difficult. And I made some rules in my evaluation of SAP or Oracle, the big red one, that whatever you show me as a demo, you must be able to show me with core code. You cannot touch anything under the core. And if you do, you're eliminated. And if you do any tricks, we'll find out later, and you're going to put in your contract with me that you did everything natively. So I'd like to set the stage now for our demos, just briefly, that everything was really hanging. We were the second largest SaaS-based company in the world. Salesforce.com was #1, Concur was #2, Right Now Technologies was #3. We were really building steam. And as a little tiny company in Salt Lake, Utah, founded by 2 college dropouts, we had Bill McDermott come to our demo as the president of SAP. He doesn't come to a lot of demos, and especially not for little tiny guys out in Utah who are losing their hair. So he came to my demo, and while he was there, we said, look, this is what we're looking for. And the reason why he came was this was a very critical time. For some reason, Salesforce.com chose to go with Oracle. And Oracle knew if they could get number 1 and number 2, the rest would fall like dominoes. SAP could not lose. And so they sent Bill McDermott. Oracle sent a few big guys themselves. Their CIO is actually out of Utah. And so I didn't expect to have this kind of audience. Imagine the sales guy at SAP who's got Bill McDermott watching the demo. And so when we told them, look, it's all around RevRec, that's all we care about. You can either do it or you can't. And at that time, the sales model was different. The sales model was I called SAP, they came and did everything, and as they get closer to what they think is the head, they would bring in an outside sales company that we would know who would help maybe be an implementation partner later. I won't tell you who they brought, but at the time when I said this about SAP, they said, okay, on our next demo, we'll have it figured out for you. The original implementation partner they had was dismissed, and they brought in Bramasol, the new Bramasol. And that really spoke volumes to me. As a company, I still made them go through the bidding process. They weren't very happy with that. They thought it should be theirs because they pulled it off. But my point is that at that time, Bill McDermott could have brought anybody he wanted to in. It was his to do whatever he wanted. And I kept asking myself, why did he bring this guy? And he did not want to lose. That's my big sell for these guys. They did a good job. So at this point, we start to realize that Oracle bowed out. They showed us something. We said, is this core code? Can we do this? And they said, no, we have a special procedure. What's the special procedure? And it was alternate core code. If you change core code, you can't upgrade, you can't patch. If you're an IT guy, you already get all that. They could not do it without touching core code. SAP was the only company that could do the RevRec that a pure SaaS-based company at the time would offer. And to my knowledge, unless they've changed it in the last 6 months, they can't do it today. They have another product to bolt on the top. They have some issues that can go into the core and change some things and be able to do it. But as a company that has to be the fast eat the slow, we couldn't accept that. We said core or nothing. And if you're familiar with SAP, you have core code, and on the outside of that, you have something called Z code that can make calls in and out without touching anything. And it's not a bolt-on product. It's still part of SAP, and it works very well. And we used the product. The next part, I think, is probably worth mentioning. Since we had such good customers, and we were public, and we were very conscientious about who we would pick, I said, I need really good references. And the guy says, well, we built this little thing called iTunes, the billing engine in it. That's a good one. I'm going to need to see the reference on that, but I know who to call. And so, yeah, we did a really good reference check, and everything turned out really good. And then I did a lot of absolutely blind reference checks between eBay, Apple, one airline, NetJet, a few others. But everything turned out to be exactly as advertised. And we had a really successful implementation. We chose SAP in the end because, A, they could do what they said they could do. And for all you guys that are considering BI, I think it's very, very interesting that there was just a bombshell to me of what happens with SAP in respect to BI versus the other guy. The other guy will sell you these things, these data marts, for about, at the time, $150,000 per data mart. They come with SAP. That was a big deal to me. I did not want to go buy data marts. If they tell me they're already built, then they're already built, and they should come with it, and that's exactly the way SAP does it. And that was a really big, that I didn't find out until much later in the process. I wouldn't have even gone down the road if I was considering other projects or other options like their OBIE, Oracle Daily Business Intelligence, was one that they had at the time. They've got, I don't think they even know what they sell anymore. They sell 4 or 5 different analytical projects. And then if you consider the integration that Business Objects will have compared to any other, while it sits on top of their own product, who's going to come in first place? Well, I know who's going to get the head start every time when it comes to development. I put down here what worked. We did project systems. That's how we did our implementation and best practices. It ties seamlessly with RevRec. It works. It was a huge win for us. And I wanted to be in a feeling of being fair. That I think we did have almost a perfect implementation, but I didn't want to make it just all roses. I took one on the chin very badly. I did what I call the shotgun approach. I chose to go with HR module, which is, I call it HR module. It's really HCM, and it has incentive comp, it has benefits, recruiting, all that. I did all of that all at once in 21 countries. Whew. Don't do that one. That project turned out to be bigger than the whole rest of the project put together. It wasn't even close. It was a catastrophe in terms of the workload that it took to pull that off, because everybody else was done and waiting on the HR. I just completely underestimated. I said, that's HR, we're accounting. Like, we get that. No, it was very, very difficult. It just about killed us. So I in a spirit of fairness, I really botched that one. In the end, the benefits were we just had one system. Previously, with SOX, which I was the guy that signed for that with the SEC filings at the time, I went from 24 in-scope applications to one. That's a really good deal. Those 28 guys I told you were in RevRec that were all CPA, MBA, or both, we were able to redistribute half of them to other parts of the company. That was a really big deal to have that. We didn't fire them. All the reports, we were able to do reports that we could not do before. And you're like, okay, give me an example of something that you could now report on because you went with SAP that you couldn't report on before with Great Plains and all your other fancy developers. So I had one that I was just really fond of called what I call true profitability. How can I take the revenue from a customer, then carve out the commissions, the sales guy, the technical support calls that are coming in, and all the expenses that are associated with that, and measure this customer's profitability? We could not do that before. And I still question a lot of companies, even in the Valley, how they can pull off this true customer profitability, and we were able to do that. And that was a really big win for us. Our time to close, we used to close Omniture. It would take sometimes 2.5 weeks just to do the close, and it's mostly because of RevRec. Our time to close went to 4 days, and that was in the beginning, and we were required, before we could really get our efficiencies down, we were still learning how to close with SAP before we were required. So that was a really big deal. Time to close is really big if you're a public company especially. The larger you get, you would think that they would give you more time, and if you're really big already, you become what's called an accelerated filer, and they make you close faster. So SAP was able to help that. And I already said the decision to be acquired, that had an impact on the decision. I'm sure that Adobe said, we can close this deal and have them integrated in less than a year without any problem. And the only way they could do that is with SAP. If you were going to do any kind of implementation, I would say this for any person in here today. I always preach this one. If you were thinking of buying a package, and I even include analytics in this one, or you were thinking of buying an ERP system, if you wanted to save the most amount of money that you could absolutely save, and take money in a way from Bramasol, sorry, this is what you would want to do. If you do this, it takes a long time. It's things that have to be done no matter what package you choose. And if you don't do it, they're going to come in and they'll do it for you and they'll charge you for it, which is okay. It's their job. But I'm just trying to tell you a good thing that I did that I think really just, even if it didn't save money or not, it just makes the implementation more simple. The first thing is on BI or ERP, it doesn't matter. You will need to gather in your company every single report, that's the R, that you could find. Every report in every department, organize them, and then on those reports, you're really going to pull out, if you're a BI guy, the fact tables, right? We're going to pull the facts off of those reports. What are the columns? What are we sorting on? We're going to list the description of every single thing in that report. If you don't do that, and you wait till you're implementing, that could cost you an extra month. You would be shocked at the amount of reports that all of a sudden you start finding that people are using. And then in that same vein, while you're doing the reports, which ones are you using? We do this one every month, but we don't know why. Well, we give it to legal. They're throwing it away. They're not looking at it. They didn't know. So all the reports. The next one is integrations. And if you'll give every integration you have in or out of your product. We've actually, we use Salesforce.com, very intimate with them as a company. We did a lot of stuff with Salesforce. We did not use SAP CRM. I think that was more political. The guy that's the college dropout starts another company now, if you want to track him, called Domo. His biggest investor was Salesforce.com. But we had a lot of integrations with Salesforce. We had integrations with our SOX product at the time. I later went with GRC, that's Government Risk and Compliance for SOX guys. But if you'll list the integration and define the integration of what's going on, that's going to help you through your implementation of the BI side or the other, because you might find redundancies, you might find things you don't need anymore, you might find, oh, well, when I built my fact table in my new universe, here's what happened. It didn't work, and this kind of thing will help you find that. Conversions, these are all the data conversions that are going on in your systems and of things that are going to have to go in or out. Now this one is kind of important on both sides, again, of BI and the ERP side, the conversions. As an example, if you were pulling, and this is more IT-ish, a varchar 256 field out of a database into 128 varchar, you got a problem. That's going to have to be converted. If your dates were different, was day, month, year, month, day, year, you'd have to convert that. This is where we list that kind of stuff. And then next is enhancements. Anything that you've done to customize, change, enhance your current product. And then you got to ask, why do we do that? And how does it affect what I'm about to do? And believe it or not, that can happen in BI, because you might say, oh, well, we've got this enhancement we don't need to use anymore. We can flush that. And even if you're running SAP or whatever package you're going to go with on your ERP. I just like this because I think it really helps me think about how I'm going to go about doing things and save so much time to have to define these things. And I hope to give something to everybody, and that's why I wanted to do this. This is forms. What are all the forms that you're currently using in your company and that are floating around? And what do they cause and do to your system? That has to do with BI. It might be in permissions. It might be in security. It might be in ERP. It might be in HR. I don't know, but getting all the forms together are going to be important because you're going to try to make all those go away. And then last is workflow. On this one, I had a lot of wars. Here's where we define the OTC. I call that opportunity to cash. Some people call it order to cash. I'm going to define the order to cash, the procure to pay, and I call it the hire to fire if you're doing HR. From the time you hired them to the time that you fired them. What is every single thing that has to happen in your system with order to cash or opportunity to cash? And then as we start to define these things, this is going to define your workflow that you're going to mold around the template that a Bramasol would offer you. And that is going to really save a lot of time because now they don't have to ask all these questions that you wouldn't know that can take weeks to figure out all the options. And so I hope this little gem of RICE-FW could help you in any kind of way. Things that help make us successful. And then lastly, I put down here executive commitment. If you're about to do a big BI project, you can really get in trouble by making a lot of promises and not being able to get them there. And I found that if you have good executive commitment, it makes all the difference in the world. Because if these guys are supporting when everybody else has to work late or provide you with whatever they got to provide you with, whether that be data or data marts or data entry, you just get there faster. Without exception, the two executives that didn't have 100% commitment with me were the areas that I had problems in. Issues that took longer. I'll take HR for me. I shouldn't have done that one. But all the rest, yeah, they just didn't have the commitment level that we needed to be successful. And I frequently say, lastly, that a good implementation of BI or ERP, or a hinge, it's a three-ring circus. That it is first, your team. And then second, the implementation team, and third, the software. If you don't have 2 out of 3, you're going to lose, no matter what. You can have the perfect software, and if you have the wrong implementation partner, I promise you, you can mess it up. if you had, just think about that circle between them, and you can just see how you can get killed between the implementation partner, and I'll just say you, and the software. You could pick the wrong software. I would admit that you could pick the wrong software, and if you have the right implementation partner and the right you'll still get to be fairly successful. You can make it. You pick the wrong implementation partner, or your team is not ready, even if this is perfect and this is perfect, if you're not ready, you're going to fail. If these guys are the wrong guys, you'll fail. This just has to be decided in your organization, no matter what you're going to go with. Even on BI. BI can really get you in trouble. Because you kind of start off by offering the smorgasbord usually, and everyone in the company thinks it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. What do you want? Oh, we want this report, this report, this report. And now you got to go deliver, and maybe you can't do it. Maybe your team's not ready to be able to produce that information. Maybe your implementation partner doesn't know how to do what I would call the true profitability report. I actually got that from that guy right back in the back on the wall. He's the one that helped me be a hero and let me take credit for it. So maybe your partner can't do that. Maybe your software can't do it. But these are the things you got to really consider. How am I on time? How about we just start with some good questions? Did I do okay? It was clear. I don't know if it helped anybody, somebody.
There was a mention of a T-chart. What was that?
Sometimes I'm so used to doing this in my office with a lot of people in there. I just said, I usually kind of do something like this when you're doing your ERP side. I just list out all the issues that I have that an ERP system is going to have. It's going to be RevRec. Can my software do that? And then, do I weight the ERP package that can handle the RevRec the best? Is the next issue going to be distribution or shop floor? And then what is its weighting? For me, it was literally everything else here was decimals, and the one thing was RevRec, because it would affect me with the SEC. It could affect my stock price if we miss. It affects our predictions, our guidance to the street. It was just so big for us. My career hinged on that one. For others, it may be something else. And then on the IT issues, I list over here, what are the things that IT is mostly concerned with? They're concerned with security. They're concerned with compliance, if you're publicly traded. Or if you have some companies, if your loans or your venture capitalist is invested in you, or depending on what series or round you're in, you could have a series of covenants and restrictions that demand a different level of IT based on where you are in the process. So IT is going to have a list of issues here. And I think I'll probably finish with, on the bottom of this, is politics. Sometimes it's very ugly. I'm so glad where I'm at now. I honestly don't have to worry about politics. And I won't tell you which company that does Photoshop and 10,000 employees. I had terrible politics. They killed Rome, and they'll kill a project, whether it's BI. Everybody's got their own agendas. I just want to flush out politics as much as I can, but they'll bury you. And then as leaders in your organizations, you just want to be as transparent as you can and keep that out. So, well, yeah, that was my little T thing that I sometimes do in these. So thank you very much for letting me be here today.